On the night of April 14, 1912, the impossible became reality. The world's largest and most luxurious passenger ship struck an iceberg and disappeared beneath the freezing waters of the North Atlantic, taking more than 1,500 lives with it. But the Titanic story is far more than a tragic shipwreck. It is a story of extraordinary ambition, groundbreaking engineering, human courage, and a series of decisions that changed history forever. How did a ship that represented the future of modern technology meet such a devastating end on its very first voyage? This is the complete story of the Titanic. To turn this extraordinary vision into reality, construction began in March 1909 at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Ireland. It wasn't just another shipbuilding project. It was one of the most ambitious engineering challenges the world had ever seen. More than 15,000 workers dedicated years of their lives to building what many believed would become the greatest passenger liner in history. Towering cranes lifted massive steel plates into place, while thousands of red-hot rivets were hammered by hand, one after another, creating a vessel unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. Every section of the ship was designed with remarkable attention to detail. Stretching nearly 882 feet in length and rising over 175 feet from keel to the top of its funnels, the Titanic was an engineering giant. Inside, luxury rivaled the finest hotels of Europe. Elegant dining rooms, a magnificent grand staircase, a swimming pool, Turkish baths, a gymnasium, libraries, cafes, and lavish first-class suites offered passengers an experience few could have imagined. But Titanic was more than a symbol of luxury. It was also a showcase of modern engineering. The ship featured 16 watertight compartments and advanced safety systems that convinced many people it could survive even if several sections were flooded. Although the White Star Line never officially advertised the Titanic as unsinkable, its advanced design led many newspapers and members of the public to believe that it was one of the safest ships ever built. That growing confidence became part of the Titanic's legend. By the spring of 1912, after years of relentless work, the world's greatest ocean liner stood ready. Millions admired it. Thousands dreamed of sailing on it. No one imagined that its historic first voyage would also become its last. On the morning of April 10, 1912, thousands of people gathered along the docks of Southampton, England. Families waved goodbye. Journalists filled their notebooks. Passengers stood proudly on the decks, unaware that they were about to become part of history. At exactly noon, the RMS Titanic slowly pulled away from the harbor, beginning its maiden voyage to New York City. The atmosphere was filled with excitement. For many, this wasn't just another journey across the Atlantic. It was the chance to travel aboard the most advanced and luxurious ship ever built. But only moments after leaving the dock, an unexpected incident nearly ended the voyage before it had truly begun. As Titanic's enormous propellers churned the water, the powerful suction caused the nearby ship SS New York to break free from its mooring lines and drift dangerously toward the Titanic. For several tense minutes, a collision seemed almost inevitable. Quick action by tugboats and the crew narrowly prevented disaster, allowing the Titanic to continue its journey. Few people realized how close the voyage had come to ending on its very first day. After departing Southampton, the Titanic stopped briefly at Cherbourg, France, where additional passengers boarded by tender boats. The following day, it made its final stop at Queenstown, Ireland, known today as Cove, where the last group of passengers stepped aboard. When the Titanic finally left the Irish coast behind, it carried more than 2,200 passengers and crew into the vast Atlantic Ocean. Among them were some of the wealthiest people in the world, hopeful immigrants searching for a better future, experienced sailors, and hardworking crew members. Each person carried their own dreams. None of them knew that, only 4 days later, those dreams would be tested by one of history's greatest maritime tragedies. The Titanic sailed confidently westward, while the endless Atlantic stretched silently before her. Hidden somewhere beyond that horizon was a danger no one on board could yet see. As the Titanic steamed steadily across the Atlantic, life on board felt almost perfect. To many passengers, it seemed less like a ship and more like a floating city of luxury. For those traveling in first class, every day was filled with comfort and elegance. The grand staircase, with its polished oak panels, sweeping design, and magnificent glass dome, became the heart of the ship. It reflected the wealth and sophistication that the White Star Line wanted the world to see. Passengers dined beneath sparkling chandeliers, enjoying elaborate multi-course meals prepared by some of the finest chefs of the era. They relaxed in luxurious lounges, read in quiet libraries, exercised in the gymnasium, swam in one of the world's first ocean liner swimming pools, or simply walked along the open promenade decks while watching the endless Atlantic roll by. But the Titanic carried far more than millionaires and celebrities. Second-class passengers enjoyed accommodations that were considered exceptional for their time. Comfortable cabins, excellent meals, and amenities that often surpassed first class on many other ships. Deep within the ship, third-class passengers, many of them immigrants from across Europe, shared a very different dream. They were not traveling for luxury. They were traveling for hope. For them, New York represented opportunity, freedom, and the chance to begin a new life with their families. Although their accommodations were simpler, they were cleaner and more comfortable than those found on many other passenger ships of the era. Children laughed through the corridors. Musicians played cheerful tunes. Conversations echoed through dining rooms and open decks as strangers became friends. Everything seemed peaceful. Everything seemed safe. No one on board could imagine that, hundreds of miles ahead, the icy waters of the North Atlantic were hiding a silent threat that would change every life on that ship forever. By the evening of April 14, 1912, the Titanic had been at sea for 4 days. The ocean was unusually calm. The sky was clear. The stars shone brightly above the North Atlantic, and to most passengers, it seemed like another peaceful night. But beneath that calm surface, danger was growing. Throughout the day, several nearby ships had transmitted wireless messages reporting ice fields and drifting icebergs directly along the Titanic's route. Some of those warnings reached the bridge. Others were received by the wireless operators, who were also busy sending passengers personal messages to the mainland. As night fell, temperatures dropped rapidly. The sea became eerily still. Without waves breaking against floating ice, spotting an iceberg in the darkness became far more difficult. High above the deck, 2 lookouts stood watch in the crow's nest, scanning the endless horizon with only their eyes. Just before 11:40 p.m., one of them suddenly froze. A dark shape appeared directly ahead. An iceberg. The warning bell rang 3 times. The telephone on the bridge came alive. Iceberg. Right ahead. Within seconds, First Officer William Murdoch ordered the ship to turn and the engines to respond. The crew reacted immediately, but the Titanic was simply too close. At 11:40 p.m., the starboard side of the ship scraped against the massive iceberg. The impact felt surprisingly gentle to many passengers. Some barely noticed it. Others felt only a slight vibration beneath their feet. Yet below the waterline, the collision had torn open several sections of the hull. Freezing Atlantic water began rushing into the ship. At first, almost no one realized what had happened. The lights remained on. The music continued. Passengers laughed, talked, and returned to their cabins, believing everything was under control. But deep below the decks, the fate of the Titanic had already been sealed. The countdown to one of history's greatest maritime disasters had begun. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary and want to explore more true stories that shaped our world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next journey into history.